Hi. If God told you that he was going to destroy your city, what would you do? Revelation 18:4 says, "And I heard another voice from heaven saying, 'Come out of her.'" He's talking about Babylon. "My people, lest you share in her sins and lest you receive of her plagues." To me, that sounds like God saying, you're going to be collateral damage if you don't heed my warning and leave Babylon. So where is Babylon? Babylon doesn't exist anymore. It was destroyed a long time ago. But Daniel was there. So he tells us what the symbol of Babylon is. In Daniel 7:4, he says, "The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. I watched till its wings were plucked off, and it was lifted up from the earth and made to stand on 2 feet like a man, and a man's heart was given to it." Well, back in 1909 or thereabouts, the last known statue from Babylon was found, I assume. It was relocated or everything was changed around it, and the pictures on the right show you more accurately or more recently what that statue looks like in its current environment. You'll notice on the right side and on the left that something has fallen off its back. Well, from Daniel, we know those were the wings of an eagle. This is the statue in front of the UN in New York City. It looks like a lion, and it's got the wings of an eagle. So what I did was I went through all of Revelation 17 and 18. There are many different descriptive passages as to what Babylon is, or a trait of Babylon, or a feature of Babylon. And I've copied them, put them all into a spreadsheet on the right-hand side. I've made some general notes as to how I interpret the passage. Then I have selected several cities and compared them against those various requirements of where Babylon actually is. This is a little bit more. New York, Washington, D.C., Rome, Mecca, Jerusalem, they all have 7 hills. London apparently doesn't have 7 hills, but has a queen and is a world banking center. So I put that in as well. I'm not trying to say that what I've done is totally comprehensive. If you can figure out some other city that matches every one of those requirements, then please get out. I'll get to that in a moment, but as an example, we have a Wikipedia page that describes all cities who claim to have been built on 7 hills. Why is 7 hills popular? Well, Rome is the most famous city in historically. That was built on 7 hills. But you'll find, if you look at that Wikipedia page, Staten Island, which is a borough of New York City, Washington, D.C., Rome, Mecca, Jerusalem, and many others on all sorts of different, every continent, has cities that claim to be built on 7 hills. So is that alone a criterion? Not really. You have to fill in all of the others. Now, to tell you something interesting as well, is that each of New York's 5 boroughs seem to have individual passages in Revelation 17 and 18. Manhattan there are several comments on merchants, money, and control. There's Queens. There is, "I am a queen and am no widow." Revelation 17 and 18 seems very fragmented as you read it. So it may be that they are actually providing separate passages for each of the boroughs, which, seems kind of strange, but it seems to work. Brooklyn has over 600,000 Jews, which is one of the highest concentrations of the Jewish people outside of the Holy Land. And God's people are to leave that city. The Bronx, the blood of prophets and saints. It has one of the largest cemeteries in New York City that has received graves, let's call them, from all over New York. And Staten Island, as I showed earlier, it has 7 hills. It's on the list. But New York City as a whole, it's on the ocean. Their Wikipedia page says it's called the capital of the world. And I've already shown you the UN statue that's there in Manhattan. So when will Babylon be destroyed in the biblical time or in the Revelation timeline? Well, Revelation 16, verses 17 to 21 tells us, the 7th bowl. Then the 7th angel poured out his bowl into the air, and a loud voice came out of the temple of heaven from the throne, saying, "It is done." And there were noises and thunderings and lightnings, and there was a great earthquake, such a mighty and great earthquake as had not occurred since men were on the earth. Now the great city was divided into 3 parts, and the cities of the nations fell. And great Babylon was remembered before God, to give her the cup of the wine of the fierceness of his wrath. Then every island fled away, and the mountains were not found, and great hail from heaven fell upon men, each hailstone about the weight of a talent. Men blasphemed God because of the plague of the hail, since the plague was exceedingly great. So during the 7th bowl, apparently, is when Babylon will be destroyed. She will get the cup of the wrath, of the fierceness of God's wrath. Where is that? Well, it seems to be on the far right, where Bowl 7 is, which is not long before the final battle. That said, I could be wrong. But, we are, as I record this, we're 2022. More than halfway through 2022. So there isn't a lot of time, and I could be wrong. So I want to warn people sooner rather than later, especially the Jewish people who, especially the Jewish people in New York, because they don't pay attention to the New Testament and not Revelation, which is the last book of the New Testament. So, if I'm wrong, I don't want to keep it quiet. I want to warn people. And if you don't agree with my analysis, that's fine. I ask that you read the entire book of Revelation, because it is the only book in the Bible that promises a blessing to all who read it. Blessed is he who reads, and those who hear the words of this prophecy, and keep those things which are written in it, for the time is near. Do your own analysis. Once you have read the book of Revelation, do your own analysis. If you come up with a city that meets every descriptive passage, it can't be pick and choose. It has to be all of them. So not just the ones that make your case. Leave there as soon as possible, or don't go there in the first place, and tell others as well in the comments for this video. And just don't leave wherever you figure that is and go to New York City. Please tell any Jewish people you know, especially those in New York City, about Revelation 17 and 18. As they generally don't believe in the New Testament. And if you tell them and they choose to leave or not, that is on their heads, as described in Revelation 18:4. So I'd like to finish with a blessing. Go in love, for love alone endures. Go in peace, for it is the gift of God to those whose hearts and minds are set on him. Go in safety, for you cannot go where God is not. Go with God. Amen. Thank you very much.